Welcome back to another episode of Real Chums, where chatting about movies feels like hanging out with friends. I'm your host, Marcel, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Dan.
This week, we are finishing our discussion on age-changing movies with the 1988 movie Big. Directed by Peggy Marshall and written by Anne Spielberg and Gary Ross. Starring Tom Hanks, Elizabeth Perkins, Robert Loggia, John Hurd, and many more.
In this episode, we are going to discuss our confusion with this movie, the rewrites we would do, and how everyone in this film needs therapy. But before we roll into that intro, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode.
Join the conversation by following us on YouTube at Real Chums. And with that being said, let's roll that intro.
We're back after taking a couple weeks off.
Weeks? Okay, maybe it was weeks. I don't even know. It's been a blur.
It's been a hot second. Viewers, listeners, thanks for sticking around. Life's gotten busy, but
We're still here. We're like, when are we going to film? When are we going to film? We're in this for the long haul, folks.
we are. And even though life gets busy, we figure it out. So we'll be doing like a double release.
That's correct. At some point,
Double feature. So we'll have Big, which we're going to finish our age-changing. We only did 2 of these, but that's
we were
fine.
supposed to do another one, but it's fine.
We'll come back to this genre again. But here's the question to kind of kick us off.
Okay.
And hopefully this question kind of sets the tone for how I feel about this movie.
Give it to me.
Did every character that interacted with Josh end up in years, if not decades, of therapy?
I mean, absolutely.
Including Josh himself?
I don't know if Josh would go to therapy, though.
I believe he would. How do you, as a 13-year-old, come back? Little Susie with her side ponytail, that's not going to interest him anymore after he's been with a 28-year-old woman. Like, dude, Josh is going to grow up with some issues.
I feel like he already was growing up with issues. Like, the kid was 13 years old, and I feel like he acted like a 9-year-old kid. There was this level of, like, his friend was way more mature than he was.
That's true. Yeah. I think this isn't the real question. I have another question for the end of the episode.
Okay.
So be prepared for that, and I want to hear from listeners on this question as well. So make sure you're here to the end. But let's talk Big. Look, of age-changing movies, this is probably the most, I don't know, like, popular one.
Yeah, okay, so I think this is definitely the one that, like, my mom, like, growing up, I remember vividly, like, one of my earliest memories, like, my mom's like, she's like, Big, I love Big. She was like huge fan of Big and Tom Hanks and like the movie and just like the idea of it. I think this having a magical thing happen to you and then have to live that out. She just really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And so I remember watching it. I don't remember how old. I was definitely like teenage years when we ended up watching it. And I was like, cool. This is a cool concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd maybe seen it one other time, but really this is like the most recent watch that I've seen it in at least 10 years.
So this is probably like your first viewing as an adult.
Yes.
Okay. I think I have like the same experience. My parents talked about Big, right? Tom Hanks. I think the first time I watched it, I was like a tween, like preteen.
Yeah.
And when I finished that, I was like, this is fine. Like, I felt like there were times where I was kind of bored, and I don't know, maybe it's just me as a ignorant teenager being like, "Oh, movies from the '80s, how boring," you know. But like, yeah, and then I think growing up, it was constantly on TV, and like I would watch it if I had gone through the entire like TV guide directory thing and couldn't find anything. I'm like, all right, fine, Big. I'd wait half an hour for like something new to start, and then I'd go and like go back and forth. But yeah, I think this is my first time watching it like as an adult and like from start to finish since that first viewing.
Yeah, and it's something special.
It's It's something, dude. I know people love this movie.
Okay, I mean, Tom Hanks is great. We've got Elizabeth Perkins, who also is fantastic.
Yes.
Robert Loggia, I think is great. Although we don't get a lot of Jared Rushton, I still think he's great in it.
Yeah, and John Hurt, right? More famous for being Kevin's dad in Home Alone. He's hilarious. He's fun in this. But I have issues with this movie.
I do too. And I don't remember having so many issues with it.
And I think as an adult watching this, there were many times where I was just like, ew, 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 no, no. Like, I was like, no. And then here's the thing. You and I talk about this often, where when you go into a movie, you have to have a level, you have to suspend disbelief, right?
Yeah.
That's just watching fiction, right? I struggled with this movie. Like, there were times where, like, I'll buy into the whole idea that this magical Zoltar machine grants a wish. An unplugged magical Zoltar machine grants a wish. Okay, I'll buy into that, but I will not buy into the fact that, like, the cops didn't tap the lines. Like, no, like, I feel like the cops would have been there, like, monitoring that house 24/7. Would have tapped the lines anytime someone called. Would have tried to trace that call. Like,
I don't know. I feel like during this time period, it wasn't. I mean, think of the Home Alone.
No,
but I mean,
there
like,
was.
Yeah, I just the thing. I do agree. I felt like I actually, my question today that I had prepped. Okay. So my thing was like, what would this movie have been if, from the parents' perspective, if they'd done, like, if it was like a horror?
Oh, terrifying. This is like, this is why I feel like everyone ended up in therapy in this movie. Mom ended up in therapy because the kidnapper would sing to her over the phone the song that she would sing to Josh as a kid, right? And then Josh sends letters to his mom saying, like, this is going to be a good experience for me, Mom. Like, don't worry about it. Josh comes home, doesn't say that he turned into an adult, right? So, like, she's going through this. So she's seeing therapy. Her husband disappears. He probably got kidnapped. Okay. Like,
right? Where is he?
So she's probably also addressing that in therapy. She's going to put Josh in therapy because Josh, in order to not talk about it, she thinks that he's compartmentalizing, like, this trauma. So she's putting him in it. And then Josh is probably talking about, like, possibly, like, sex addiction at this point. Like,
you're right.
I mean,
that's
this
a good point.
Like, he was days having turned 13, like, with a 28-year-old woman, right? So, like, he's in therapy. Like, no, this movie this is why, like, I was screaming several times during this movie as an adult, and I was just like, no, why? What's happening? and what's her name? Elizabeth Perkins' character, Sarah?
Yeah,
Susan. We'll get to Susan. But I was just. It's a roller coaster of a ride.
It is a roller coaster of a ride. Look, if you haven't seen this movie, Tom Hanks plays Josh Baskin, who is a 13-year-old kid who
12-year-old.
Sorry, you're right.
12 who's turning 13. But I want to be very clear on this, that Susan got down with a 12-year-old, okay? Like, I'm still disturbed by this. Go on.
Okay, so he likes a girl. He he's not even, like, wanting to be an adult. He ends up going to a carnival, ends up finding a Zoltar machine, makes a wish, turns an adult, and then he, like, leaves and has to figure out life. Finds himself at a toy company and ends up making it.
Becomes an executive at a toy company. I love that premise, that he just becomes an executive at this company.
I love that he sticks it to Hurd. Paul's he's been playing Paul, who's just, like, the dick of the company and trying to make it big, and so good.
I love. Thanks for that synopsis. But I love that you said, like, he doesn't. It's not that he wants to be an adult, right? He gets humiliated, embarrassed in front of the girl that he likes, right? and that's the incident that leads him to like just want to be big, right? And I love that idea that we're not introduced to a kid who's like, oh, I'm bored with life, like school is boring. No, like we have those 5-10 minutes of him with Billy, and like they're hanging out. They have their little cool handshake rap song that they do. Billy's going to go find out if the girl likes him, right? How, we don't know. And then he comes back and it's like, you're in, man. Like,
yeah, such a great wingman. Yeah. I love the fact
he doesn't even explain anything. He just says, you're in. Like, you're good to go. I love that.
I love that Josh doesn't ask any questions.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that for me is like, Josh is like, he doesn't know. He's so oblivious. Perhaps like, I'm not sheltered, but like his buddy, who's like doing this work for him, trying to like egg him on.
Yeah.
He's the one talking. Josh is like stiff. He can't formulate words. And then the whole experience, when I was watching this, I'm like, I don't remember him feeling so young, like in the whole experience. Whereas Billy, way more poised.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Overall, just as like a character feeling like flushed and whatnot.
No, I like that you mentioned that, because I think there's this sense of like, obviously innocence, and the whole movie talks about, this concept and this themes of like innocence and growing up and whatnot. But he's like a good kid. Like he's a
good kid.
He shares a room with his like newborn sister. Like, how nice of him, like just like all around good kid, who goes to the carnival, like you mentioned, and he can't ride the ride, even though he tells the girl that he's been on it. And then once he gets up to get on, he's too short, he's too small. And then kind of gets humiliated because she's on a date with a taller, older teenager, probably, right?
Yeah.
So then like typical like teenage behavior to one, be embarrassed, to be embarrassed, and then in a moment of embarrassment and I don't know, desperation, he goes and makes this wish.
Yeah, I don't know if it was desperation. I think it's more like he just
frustration, maybe. Yeah,
yeah. I think that's a better term, as frustration. Like he was frustrated with the situation, and he's like, I just wish. I think he just wanted more autonomy, more whatnot, and so he makes the wish a big. And the next day, we get one of the perhaps most iconic Tom Hanks intros. Coming out of a kid's room, whitey tidies, going in the bathroom, freaking out, him trying to talk to his mom completely losing it. I just think it's like, that was a great moment, in my opinion.
It's a highlight of the movie, because he leaves, right, to go find the carnival. The whole carnival's up and gone. No way that happens, but he comes back. And then his mom doesn't recognize him, and I love the part where he's like, "No, I have a birthmark on my."
Yeah. Like he because I think that they delivered it great. The writing, the performance. He's just recently turned 13-year-old kid. 12.
About to turn
13, and he is innocent. He's just trying to communicate with his mom.
Yeah.
But they also did a great job with the mom who's freaking out because there's a strange man in her living room.
Who just walks in and is now pulling down his pants. Like, of course she's going to freak out.
This movie just is a PSA for therapy.
I want to talk Tom Hanks.
Okay, what do you got? What
because
is it about?
If there's anything that I absolutely love about this movie, and I have a lot of like criticisms and whatever issues with it, but I love Tom Hanks in this, and he is. You and I have talked about this offline. How maybe season 3 or season 4 we wanted to look at a filmography of an actor or a director or screenwriter, whatever it may be, right? And I want to look at Tom Hanks. Because you have Tom Hanks of the 80s. We did Sleepless in Seattle, right?
Check that episode out.
Yeah. You have this Big. In the 90s, you have the Tom Hanks, who then, this is his first nomination for Big. Okay, he lost his Oscar nomination. He lost to Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man. Okay.
Oh, okay.
You have Tom Hanks of the 90s, who's popular for the I just forgot, Forrest Gump. Okay, Apollo 13. You have Tom Hanks of the 2000s with Castaway, even like The Terminal.
Dude, yeah.
It's such a unique, like, 80s, 90s, 2000s of Tom Hanks. It's its own era each decade in performance, in his choices of movies, in how he delivers his lines, and like even starting here, especially the hotel scene. Okay, where he.
Dude, the hotel scene, bro. I forgot about the hotel scene.
So did I. But it is such a, like, this is the scene that like sets him up, makes me believe that this is Josh, little kid Josh. This is the scene that I needed for me to buy in. And to your point, yes, there are times later in the movie where I don't believe that this is a 12 or a 13-year-old. Like, he behaves like a 9-year-old kid, right? But it's the hotel scene that, for me, it's like, yeah, this is a little kid inside this adult man's body.
And he nails it. Like, I think that part of it is like, one, Billy helping him out.
Yeah.
Is like a whole, like, to me, I'm like, Billy not carries, but like he helps to deliver so much to a friend.
Yeah.
In need, right? Which I think later is why towards the end of the movie, the payoff is there. Maybe not payoff. But like, this is a setup for towards the end of the movie, right? Yeah. And him helping him out, getting him into this hotel, and think, like, okay, this will be fine. But having the experience of him, like, the dingiest, cringiest of hotels, coming in and then hearing this, and I forgot that it's in Spanish, but the whole fight is in Spanish, and I'm over here listening, and I'm like, dude, this guy's getting married, or the girl doesn't want to get married to this guy, and now he's threatening to kill somebody. Yeah. As a kid, he doesn't know anything. He's like, all he hears is shouting in a different language, and he has no idea what's happening, and he just hears escalation upon escalation.
Right.
But I love that it's actually violent. It's not just like random words. It's like something that it feels scary. Then you have sirens and things going on, like a pop.
And gunshots, right? In the background outside. Yeah.
Great set design. Great just like setting what is happening in this. That, like you said, helps you just... And he curls up on the bed and he's just like what to do.
What to do. And the decision from Penny to just have the camera like in the corner, right?
It's not even in the corner. It's in the corner. It's raised high.
Yeah.
You're looking like, it's almost like surveillance style. And anyways, it's just like
it starts with him at the door, right? And then it just follows him as he pushes the cabinet in front of the door, and then he goes by the window, and then he just kind of cradles up, and it just follows him there, right? Like you said, it's just by high, doesn't cut to a close up of him, and I think that's what sells it for me, because it's Tom Hanks' mannerisms as a child to grab a pillow, to just cuddle it, and just like rock and hide, like, yes. That's what delivers it, and it's great acting, obviously, on his part, but also like on the decision to not then cut 2 seconds into it or whatever and see him crying or whatever. Like, I love that decision because it's the mannerisms, the body language that sells it all for me.
Yeah, 100%. And I think Tom Hanks nails that at multiple times throughout the movie.
Yeah.
I think some of the other moments that I find, I think, is when he shows up in the tux at the party, and he takes a bite of some food and just doesn't like it and puts it somewhere else.
Like caviar. But the best though, it's the little corn. Of course he would grab that, because I'm pretty sure I did that, not knowing what a little corn was, and just.
So good.
A corn seed. Oh, I love it.
Oh, I freaking love it so much. I like, and then all the fact like he's got money now, buys a whole bunch of stuff. Him with Susan, bringing her over to have sleepover, to do like gets. I think one of my favorite things is that him encouraging this adult woman to just have fun.
Yeah,
that's something that like I think for sure like, and I think maybe as an adult now. Because I watched it as a kid, like we both watched it as kids, but watching as an adult first time, I think part of this, what this movie does, and why a lot of individuals cherish this, is because it reminds them that like they might be taking themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, one of the things I think that message is wonderful, but I think the overall story, when it comes to like what is happening between Susan and Josh. And what that relationship, not only that, but like you said, him calling back his mom, trying to explain like what's going on. Those are moments that like really break it so much for me.
What about those moments, especially like when he calls her, doesn't land for you?
Like his genuineness does land for me, right? Yeah. The genuineness of the mother, right? The thing. I think what doesn't land for me is that like, they don't touch on it. Like, it's like they have a little moment here and a little moment there. And then it's like out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And then, but like, then we get another later as we're trying to get back into like what happens in the third act where Billy comes in play and, Josh is now becoming an adult because he's had to grow up.
Yeah.
And he's taking on more responsibilities and he like pushes Billy away, And then Billy having the moment with Josh's mom, who's still like really like I truly wish we'd gotten a little bit more juxtaposition between what was happening at home versus what was happening with Josh. I don't know how much more we needed, but I do think that it would have helped to like set stakes to some degree throughout the story to make the fact that he's moved to a position where he's now become an adult.
Yeah.
And then he realizes how much he doesn't want to be there, right? Like at the end of the day, he wants to go back and live like his life, and is okay with living the like that he's not ready to be an adult. But I just don't fully feel that like him just having a moment with his friend and like realizing that he can't love, like he's not ready to love, is the biggest thing to be there. I think that him admitting to Susan that he was a kid, and that he changed, and like that whole situation, I think is something was a huge moment for him. But at the same time, I think that having an impact from his mom, like a conversation with his mom, not just with Billy, or like a feeling there, would it just really, I think would have hit home harder for me in giving us a juxtaposition.
I see, yeah. Perhaps like some kind of an interaction with adult Josh and his adult mom that makes him come to this realization of being an adult sucks, right? Like I miss my parents, right? And yeah, I like that. I think for me, my rewrite for this, and we haven't gotten to Susan yet, but my whole rewrite would be maybe doing less of the romantic relationship with Susan and really build with the relationship and friendship between Billy and Josh. And for Josh to be eventually kind of come to realize that he's cast aside his friend, which we do see this in the movie, but I would have wanted more of that because Billy is great.
You're right.
Like he's the character that anchors him throughout this entire movie and the interactions, right? It's because of the interactions that we see Josh and Billy have that we continue to believe that this is a child, right? In this adult body. And so I think I would probably rewrite this to not have a romantic relationship with a 28-year-old woman. and instead have more of the impact be for him to come to a realization of like, I'm missing out on my childhood, whereas Billy is out doing stuff, like he's still waiting for me, whatever it may be, and kind of dig more into that emotional, what it means to have friends as a kid, right? Because as kids, our friends were everything for us, right?
Absolutely, bro.
And I would have loved to like have the movie dug more into that, like what it is to be a child and why, as you grow up, friendships change and dynamics change with among friends, right? So cherish the moments that you have as a child.
It's there. It's just not enough, right? I mean, the fact that they're, you know, the sequence. There's a short sequence of them like getting the apartment and then like getting stuff. Like we don't see the interaction that he has with Billy and how often he's connecting with him, except for some of the, you know, the birthday moment, and then later on once they kind of like have a bit of a fight. Those are the things that I do agree that, like, again, with in connection with like moments with Billy and the mom, or and like Billy trying to communicate with Josh, saying like, we, you know, like this is hard. Like, what, you know, what do you want me to say, or, you know, something to that effect. And honestly, Billy and Jared Rushton's character, like with Tom Hanks, is phenomenal.
Yeah, very good. I know Jared Rushton, obviously he was in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, later that following year, and other stuff, but like he was solid, and like he kept up really well with Tom Hanks.
100%. I think it's a miss boat that we didn't get more of that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to know, okay, let's talk about Susan.
Yes.
Because Susan's character, I think, is the biggest character that, like, I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened with the story. Again, there's something about the 80s having a romanticized, like, vision of, like, the idea of, like, I want to be older and, like, having there. I think that now in society, we try to give kids more, not only, well, there's a level. Some parents give kids more independence. Some parents try to, like, control everything from them, because they don't want them, you know, not they don't want, just they feel that they want to be protective, which is great. To each their own parenting style. Yeah. One of my biggest thing though is that, like, I think that this level of innocence is gone, and we don't see that much anymore now because of the amount of consumption that we have available to us, / like that we have to address to our children at a much younger age, because we have to talk about it now. I think sex, you know, what people identify as gender, or, you know, like different beliefs and culturals and things like that. We're in an age in the 80s. I don't necessarily, this is not stuff that people are talking about. So I think that Susan's character with Josh is such a interesting and unique decision for this film. And I know this is probably the biggest thing you want to talk about. So what is it? Where do you want to start with this?
I want to start with the things that I hate about the character of Susan.
Give it to me.
I hate that they write her to be this woman who slept her way to the top.
100%.
I hate that. Hate it with a passion. Like, why can't you just give me like a strong executive who, and not that she's not smart, okay, but I just hate that, like, that's the characterization you decide to give her as to why she's an executive at this toy company,
even though she's probably not.
Right, and like she likes these ideas that Josh brings to the table, and like helps fine tune that. We see that. I love that professional relationship that they have. Okay, but I hate that they wrote her like that. Okay, I obviously hate the idea that they continue to lean into that her whole reason for leaving the party with Josh was that her intentions were, oh, he's caught the eye of Macmillan, right? So I'm gonna go see how I can make my way up the company by getting down with Josh, right? So, like, I hate that was her like inciting the like moment to be like, I'm gonna go hang out with this guy because that's how I've made it this point. I get it, it's the 80s, but like,
I don't see.
But it's. I hate it. I genuinely hate that decision. In the words of Bandit from Bluey,
This was the 80s, man. There were no helmets. It was a wild place.
Yeah, I just hate that characterization. Why couldn't you just given me like a strong executive female executive in this company?
You have another reason? Any other hates?
I hate obviously that she.
I believe the word is sex. They have sex, Marcel.
we're gonna get a mature rating on this episode. I hate that.
We've sworn on this podcast, and us saying the word sex is gonna be the one that puts us over the top.
Yeah, because we're talking about underage. This is what's wrong with the movie.
Okay, you're not wrong. I mean, the fact that he's a kid that is in an adult body is messed up. Like mentally, we all know who he is.
Yeah.
So I think that's the part that is really difficult for sure to like suspend belief that that they would write this. But at the same time, we have to like if we're going to suspend belief, he's an adult. He's an adult man with a mind of a child, which sucks.
Yeah.
But he's also put himself in a position to engage with adult decisions and adult situations that have to take responsibility.
Sure.
And I think that by the time they get to a point where they have sex, he's matured to not an adult.
Yeah.
Not an adult, but to a position where he's probably 18 level, like he's had to make bigger decisions and is starting to he's understanding the world better. Do I think? I am not saying or consenting that this is okay in a movie. Well, I really wish we'd been able to do 13 Going on 30 because literally it's the same. It's like the same premise.
Okay, I was going to ask you this. I haven't seen 13 Going on 30. Is there a romantic
interest? Okay, I can't remember. I think there is. But I don't remember if they actually sleep together. The other premise is that like it's like flash forwarded to her as a 30-year-old.
Okay.
Like she's 13 and then all of a sudden she takes over, like not take over, but she's like she's 30 years old and she's had a life and she's got the mind of, she's now this like small period of this window is her as a 13-year-old rather than like it's the same year. And then he turns into like an adult.
Okay.
That's where I think we lose it for like us. Is that like there's not like any sort of teleportation situation where like he's an adult and this stuff happens and he's like there. I think it's just that he becomes an adult. He at the same time period that he was when he was getting ready to turn 13.
Sure. I think Hollywood, as you continue to make these not body swap movies, but live or age changing movies, let's lean away from like a romantic interest in these.
Okay, because like here's the thing is like we have what's the difference between Big going to an adult versus 17 again with Zac Efron as a teenager. Now he's older, and the chemistry we have with Leslie Mann.
Well, I will argue this, okay? I'll tell you. One, yes, he is older, right? The character is a grown-up man who's married to Leslie Mann, and he becomes a kid, right? So, like, from the story perspective, yes, this is an adult. Two, the interactions, the flirtatious chemistry that they have, I fall for it because one, it's Zac Efron and Leslie Mann. Like it's just. I
just wanted to bring up Zac Efron and Leslie Mann in this podcast. I just want to be honest.
It's just muy caliente. Like it's there, right? But it's also a man that is trying to regain back, and he's coming to a realization of what he's lost. This is a kid who, to a degree, is exploring different facets of adulthood and shouldn't be exploring, in my opinion, that aspect of it. And I get it. Like, she doesn't know that he's a kid.
Right. And I think I don't know where they decided to make the decision for the screenplay. Like it really does. I remember watching it as a kid and feeling like, are they really going to the fact that like they're going to have this moment?
I remember the first time I watched it, my mom looked at my dad and was like, remember there's the scene? Just fast forward over that. And I was like, what scene? What are you guys talking about? Right?
So at 11 o'clock, Marcel's putting the VHS into the tape. It's like, where is it? Where is it?
Rewinding. Play. Is it there yet? No.
This is, but you're not wrong. Because I think for me, my biggest thing is that it's like they did it. There wasn't a time warp like there is in 13 going on 30, right? Where like life has happened. She just happens to have been in her 30-year-old self version's body.
Oh, so the movie takes place starts in like the 70s or 80s or whatever it is, and then she gets
placed she wakes up in her 30-year-old self's body.
Oh, okay.
So there's like a time jump, but she's still 13 in her mind. So she wakes up as her 13-year-old self, and has this like life period. Whereas this one, like he wakes up the next day in the situation. It's not like he like, because like if the situation was where he like wakes up, he's 30 years old, but he's like not a bum, but like just doing something random, and I think part of this is because they wanted the character of Billy.
Sure.
Which again reemphasized the fact that like, why didn't we get more Billy and Josh's like growth, and like because like some of the best moments are when like he's trying to get his job and he's like, just copy off this. That's probably my favorite scene.
And again, how do you as an employer hire someone who didn't give you a full social security number?
Again, what is, and then they're giving them checks.
Yeah. And he got an apartment in Soho, like no credit check, no background check, like
okay.
It was the 80s, man.
It was a wild place.
But here's what I do like about Susan though.
Yeah.
I think I do like the scene where she goes into the apartment, right, that first time, and he like invites her to like jump on the trampoline. I think it's very few times where you see like an actual like a character have a very tangible shift in who they are in movies, and this movie does it very well. It's right here. Like you can point to it and say, this is where Susan changes and becomes more empowered and more confident as an executive or as a woman in this time. And it's just, I do like that shift that we see.
Because I was torn with how Susan was written for the same reasons you were. And you're right. I love this scene because it's magical. I think that like filming, I think it was something that was palpable. I think Tom Hanks' performance, and Susan, and I don't know, like I really would love to know, like if like Susan was like, "Hey, this is how the scene's gonna play out," or if they just like let it play out, because the reactions of her jumping and like, and then on top of that, like him coming out in his PJs cuts to her, and she,
on the bunk bed
wearing his like a t-shirt, and him just like going to the top bunk, and then having this like realization of like, this is what a good guy feels like, makes it even like harder for me later with the fact they have a sexual relationship.
Yeah.
Not that they have a sexual relationship, but that they decided to write this scene and then ruin it for her, because now she's gonna have to deal freaking years of therapy. Okay, I don't care how like you should go be a kid again.
Okay, so then the other issue I have is that when she finds out that he's a kid, the fact that she says, "Well, look me up in 10 years," like, no, lady.
Wait, I don't know. I think she does. She
says that. Look me up in 10 years.
You're right.
Josh is probably like, 5 years, I'll be 18. But like the fact that she doesn't run away and start asking, am I gonna end up in prison? Like,
again, why police are not involved as much in this film, I do not know. I felt like it wasn't that they made the perception of the men's perspective that she was sleeping her way to the top. When we think of Paul, John Hurt's character, he puts that portrayal on us, even though like whether she did or not, she still made it to the top, and she's there in the meeting rooms with these players.
Sure.
Okay, so she's done something right to be in this room. Whether she can actually have a voice or not is neither here nor there.
Right.
But I do really hate that they make it feel over and over that she like is doing that.
And I mean, it seems like that's the only reason why she is with John Hurd's character, right? Like, which she after the party, then she like
Gives back the key, and or takes back the key or something.
From an editing perspective, wasn't that weird that like the next they're in the bunk beds, scene ends, and then like the next scene is her driving to work with John Hurd, and he's like, "So what did you do last night?" Well, I was confused. I'm like, did you go pick him up at Josh's house? Did you pick her up at Josh's house? And like, what kind of relationship do you guys have?
Well, I mean,
like,
you're right.
And in his mind, he's thinking, oh no, they did it. Like they had sex, and I'm still gonna go pick her up and take her to work.
Well, and like I can't remember if she's wearing the same outfit. Like now
I can remember now. Yeah,
I have to look at it. Anyways. But the whole breakdown, like it is a weird scene.
Yeah.
It's also New York. I mean, it's also New York, and like it could just be that like she like woke up early and like took a taxi back to her place and got ready and like got picked up by her, by Paul, but it is. I mean, he definitely he feels he in his mind, Josh stole his girl.
Yeah.
And is stealing his job.
And is stealing his job. Yep.
Which, okay, can I just do let's do a quick. Paul's character, the guy's like, he like, in Home Alone, he's like the like disgruntled dad, but he's got like all his family there, so I understand.
Yeah.
It's understandable. Mm-hmm. Okay. In this movie, complete dick.
He's a complete dick. I love the handball scene. Where he
That's probably my second favorite.
He explains the rules and then he starts cheating in that. I love that scene.
It is literally, I honestly want to know if they just busted up laughing after like.
Oh, I bet.
Because like they're fighting. He's like, no, you're cheating. He's like trying to, and like him actually like pinning him down on the concrete floor and everyone like watching. I can just imagine like people. I bet you those aren't even extra. There's just people like
just walking there and being like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that scene. Look, Susan, a bit of a problematic character for me, but I think Elizabeth Perkins does a great performance. She really sells this. I weirdly really enjoyed the scene where like they're out with friends and the kid comes in needing help with algebra and Josh walks away and like, oh, he's a keeper, like
that's why she wants to get him in 10 years.
10 years. I will say I do feel like her realization felt a little bit out of the blue. Like they're in that conference meeting, right?
I agree.
He walks out. There are two deleted scenes that I want to mention. I wish they would have kept them in. So that whole scene where he tells her, I'm a kid, blah blah blah, and she doesn't believe him. She's like, no, whatever. Like we're all kids at heart, right? It would cut to him being asleep in his room, in their room, and she comes out and like opens up his wallet and finds like a baseball card, the little Soltar card saying that your wish was granted, and like no ID, nothing, right? So then like it plants a seed of like, that's weird, and then
interesting,
and then right before they go that next morning, before they go into the meeting. I think she like asks for gum and he hands her like what's that one, like chew, like that gum that we all had as kids in the 80s and 90s, like that
bubble or the big chew, or?
The big chew, yeah, that like big. So she hands him that. So like she comes to like realization like this is weird, and then you had the scene of being in the conference room and then like him storming out, and then it clicked. I wish they would have kept those scenes a little bit in there.
I agree.
I think that would have helped more in that like realization for her, rather than him just like they have that fight, conference room, and then that awareness. But But she does a great performance.
Elizabeth Perkins she's not it's not the problem.
No,
it's the writing and
It's
like
the writing.
how they went about going and stuff. The only other thing is I want to say is like, I know why people love. I think the moments that we remember are the moments that are beautiful. We got Macmillan, Robert Logia's character with Tom Hanks as Josh at the piano scene. Him like at the toy store, like Tom Hanks playing laser tag in the store.
In the toy store. Going back to your point, if this was a horror from the like a parent's perspective, if my kid was just playing with a 30-year-old man at a store, I'm like, what are you doing, man? Get away.
You're not wrong. Not wrong. But it was the 80s.
It was a wild place.
Favorite scene. So you said your favorite scene was?
My favorite scenes probably is the like him applying for the job and getting like that beginning job situation. He's like applying for the job. He's like, well, what should I put there? I don't know. Copy him. And he like tries to lean over, and then like the adult guy's like. I just think it's so funny because now like we have like people, we'll help you with the resume. It's just, I don't know, fun. And then him getting the job with no social security card. And then the first day he's on the phone, like the guy who's over like, hey, you know that girl over there? You give her a wink and shit.
Freaking what's his face? John, what's his face? Lovitz. John Lovitz. I forgot about that.
It's freaking priceless.
Yeah. I like those scenes. That's a fun scene. I think my favorite scene is the whole. He's in the conference room. The I don't get it scene.
Okay, that was 100% on my up runner because it's glorious.
It's perfect. I love just how Paul's like reaction, like defensiveness, and like, well, market research shows blah blah blah. If you had read your packet, I don't get it. Like, one, I love it because I've been in those meetings.
I was gonna say, I'm like, who has not been in those meetings? Like, people show up with this like huge presentation with all this data, and then they're like, "This is the most logical thing to do," and then you're just sitting there, and you're like,
"Are we really going to move forward with this idea?" No, I've been in those meetings where like someone presents something on something they want to do, and I'm just like, "We're all buying in on this, are we? Like, why?" So I love that because it's very relatable as an adult. I think the second, it also shows just like his innocence and his approach to like his approach to adulthood, but like the work environment, like keeping it simple and like who are you catering to, right? And for him to just be like, well, instead why buildings that transform into robots and not bugs, right? And then lastly, I love like the over dramatic reaction of everyone in that room, like, bugs, yeah, that's incredible. Like, that was a little bit over the top, but I'm just like, I love it. I'm here for it.
I thought it was like over the top, but I also was like, it's like the first like actual fun idea that someone's brought to the table in like a long time.
Yeah,
that I felt like if you're gonna be in a toy company, you want to love toys.
Yeah.
So I think like Macmillan, he loves toys. They have the scene with the piano, and like he wants something more of that. So having Josh showcase, like, who cares about who is your customer?
Yeah,
right. Go into the understanding of like what matters, and then him doing this subconsciously.
Oh yeah.
Instead of trying to like be data driven or something. Some of these like, but even buzzwords today that are like still there that people get they're lost.
Yeah.
And yet this one simple moment sparks life, which is again a moment where Susan noticed, like, I think is another moment where not only but for Josh, but for like all the people around Josh's character, sees like, man, I forgot what it feels like to feel this way again.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love that scene. It's fun, and just his approach to it all. I think I'm gonna try that on the next meeting I have, where I'm just like, I don't get it.
And the next thing you know, you're like, dang it, Danny, I gotta let go.
Okay, here's my question of the day for you.
Give it to me.
If, let's say, you win an opportunity to go to Disney. Disney owns this property now. So you go to Disney Studios, and you and 4 other directors, up-and-coming directors, and you're the last one to go in, and they say, look, Here, everyone else has picked out a property we want them to pitch to us. For you, it's big. We want to revive this IP we have, either in a sequel or in a remake. Give us your pitch. Give us 2 pitches, 2 to 3 pitches of what you would do with this property.
Great. Okay, so I think for me, I would have 2 options. One, I would do a remake of it, but I would do it similar. I would not do it the same time period. I would probably do it similar to 13 Going on 30, where it's like a time jump.
Okay.
But he finds Billy to talk to him about it. And so Billy and Josh, as adults, Billy, like Josh goes to find Billy, and they've had it like falling apart, and him going back to talk with Billy, re-engage it, because Billy has family struggles similar to what he had to deal with as a kid or whatever, and that through that struggle, Josh's like youthfulness and his because he's 13 or turning 13, he reinvigorates Billy's life, and that he through that finds there maybe not like an interest, but there's like another person there that they have that is for Josh's character.
Yeah.
While Billy does that figuring, because I think that Billy having some sort of family situation and him struggling through that, and then maybe he's still a toy exec, and then he was about to get fired, but then like revitalizes his like career because he's thinking like a kid again. Really sets the trajectory, and maybe Susan still could be in play, right? So they have that sort of connection. The other version of this that I had, which I think I don't know, I thought pretty good. The other version I have for this is if it's small, and instead it's Josh older, and he reverses. He's not connecting with his kids, and he becomes a kid again.
Okay.
And like he's got like like some 16 kid that he has to deal with, and he's like forgotten about stuff, so he gets reverted again, to be young,
I like
and
that.
has to finagle his, and it's same situation.
Yeah.
It's not like a time jump. It's like he has to deal with like his kid's situation, kind of like 17 again. The difference is that it happens on like a work trip or something, and then he has to come back and convince his kids to like understand the whole scenario, and then his wife, who's Susan.
Okay, so you would lean. Okay,
No, I don't know, maybe has to try to like figure out what he has to do to get back to be an adult.
Okay.
Those are my 2 pitches.
I like that. I have 3. Here are my 3. And,
Okay.
and the reason why I ask you this question is because, again, I really struggled with like so many loose ends in this movie.
There's a lot of loose ends.
Like a lot. Like I'm pretty sure.
Like, okay, he leaves, he becomes a kid again. What happens to Macmillan and like the toy line?
You don't think an executive at Mattel goes missing? Okay, you don't think that would be on the news? Like he just left, and the last person to see him was Susan. She's a suspect now in this man's disappearance. Okay, like
she's going to therapy in prison.
Anyway, so this is why I wanted to ask you this. But here's my first pitch, similar to yours, but this is a direct sequel. Turns out Susan got pregnant. Okay.
Winner already.
So years later, in present day, okay, you have Josh, who's now 40, 50-ish, and Susan's now 60, almost 60, 70-ish. She has a son, and you cast Colin Hanks, okay, Tom Hanks' son, to be the son, and now finally Susan comes and tells Josh, hey, I had this kid and I've kept him hidden for you for like the last 30, 40 years. And so then Josh does the wish to become younger, to be able to connect with his 40-year-old son, who is now struggling with like being a father and feeling like he missed out and like didn't realize he had a dad or whatever. And then you kind of build into like the emotional dynamics there between a father who now is like a few years older than you, okay, and 13 years older than you in this case. And then Josh now having to like relive and being like, okay, what would it be like for me to be a dad to an adult?
Okay, next one.
Next one. I would hire Jordan Peele to do an episode in the Twilight Zone, okay? Beat by beat of this movie. Don't change anything, but just turn it into a horror, okay? A kid makes a wish, becomes an adult. The parents, okay, try to get the police involved. No one knows what's happening to the kid. The kid gets somehow works his way up into a company, has to deal with the stresses of life, gets pressured to do things he doesn't want to, okay? And then finally when he results back to being a kid, right, you have this whole police trying to find him or whatever, and just this plays out perfectly as a Twilight Zone episode.
100%.
If you really lean into like the horror of it all. I want to flesh out like the ending, because I feel like the ending will be with everyone in prison or in series.
I feel like you'd have to do something a little bit wild with the ending, but okay, I can see it.
And my third pitch, a series a la Black Mirror, okay? So an anthology series, new characters every episode, where people make random wishes to Zoltar.
Oh!
Okay. And like you do a 45, 50-minute episode of like these shenanigans they get into, and then just having to like either they get stuck in that wish that they made, or they revert back to it, they learn something, but it's just a different wish, different characters, nothing's connected. It's just very like Black Mirror. It's just the only connecting tissue is Zoltar is granting wishes left and right with different people, and you just have fun with it.
Okay. Out of our options, if you were an exec and you heard our pitches, which two are you choosing?
I like the series, like just being able to do a Black Mirror, random wishes being granted, new cast every time, get some big names. I think you could have a lot of fun with that.
Okay, what's your next one?
You give me the next one.
Oh, I was going to choose the same thing. I mean, I was for sure going to choose the Zoltar. I think it's a phenomenal one. I really like the idea of doing a reboot, but having it be similar to 13 Going on 30, but have it be connecting with Billy's character. I just think it feels more heartwarming, and like would accomplish the same sort of thing. The Zoltar though, there's something there, dude. I truly think we should like.
Why didn't they continue? Like this should have been the series, but like you can really lean into like dark stuff with this. Like,
you could every single. I mean, I think you could do. It's an anthology, so like you could do. It could be all different, but every single episode is just one word.
Yes,
bro.
Disney.
No, we're gonna put this together. I think we should do a treatment and try to pitch it somewhere.
We have to pitch it to Disney. They own the rights to the Zoltar character.
Oh, you're right. Okay, well, Disney will come see you in a second.
Yeah,
I freaking love it.
we could have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as we did. We'd love it if you could subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and if you thought this was a fun episode, we'd love it if you left a review, because it really does help us get discovered. If you're not into reviews, just hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us there, because we do a whole bunch of stuff there. That's news, that's trailer reactions. Eventually, we'll actually get the reviews put together when I get time to edit them. But when they do come out, you'll love them as well.
But more importantly, we want to hear from you. What do you think about Big? Were we being too harsh with this movie? Tell us why you love it. And what did we miss? You can always connect with us in the comments below, or reach out to us on any of the socials at Real Chums. Feel free to email us at realchums.com. And you can find me on Twitter at Marstrosity, MARCTROSITY.
And me at Rubio_TV. Join us next week as we discuss.
So we're doing a month long viewing of movies that came out 10 years ago in 2014. which is wild because I'm going through the list and I'm like, wow, I feel like this just barely came out. And the first one we're doing is Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
So make sure you're subbed, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Later.